In our long-running series, Most Corrupt, we give the information, pro and con, and allow the viewers to decide for themselves. However, some cases are irrefutable, and in many cases, just egregious. We have long expected our politicians to operate at a higher moral and ethical level, as they represent us, the people. But this facade has faded away, and for good reason. Our subject now is a stellar example of corruption and graft, and it is not even a close call. Who is Elizabeth Warren? What have been her long-running conflicts with ethics? Did she break the law? How does she wear hypocrisy so comfortably?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former history professor, Army and Marine Corps veteran, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History.
Elizabeth Ann Warren was born on June 22, 1949 in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Warren is a graduate of the University of Houston and Rutgers Law School at Rutgers University, Newark, and has taught law at several universities, including the University of Houston, the University of Texas at Austin, the University of Pennsylvania, and Harvard University. In each of these applications for education and employment, Warren claimed Native American status, which would have given her greater access to those programs and opportunities under affirmative action. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Warren did tick American Indian on Texas bar registration forms, and Harvard Law School listed her as a minority in their affirmative action documents. Using this falsified data, Warren jumped over equally or even more qualified applicants, which is a federal crime, as outlined in the Higher Education Act of 1965. She never submitted documentation supporting her claim of being Cherokee, which would have been required. This act specifies severe penalties for financial aid fraud, including fines up to $20,000 and imprisonment for up to 5 years. Providing false information on the FAFSA is also considered making a false statement to a federal agency. If the FAFSA was submitted via postal mail or computer networks, applicants may face additional charges for mail fraud or wire fraud, which are felonies that can result in fines and up to 20 years in prison. Financial aid fraud involving identity theft can lead to further fines and imprisonment. In 2012, the Boston Globe, a staunch supporter of Warren, examined an 1894 marriage license application listing Warren's great-great-great-grandmother, O.C. Sarah Smith, as Cherokee. However, this attempt at giving Warren cover failed, and the Boston Globe later issued a correction. The claim came from a family newsletter alluding to such an application. Neither the Globe nor the Genealogical Society had ever examined the primary record. Bottom line, there was no verified original document. The New England Historic Genealogical Society later clarified that it had no proof to support or disprove Warren's claims of Native ancestry. Donald Trump seized on the controversy, branding her Pocahontas and publicly challenging her story, arguing that she used the claim to gain opportunities that should have gone to others. At a Montana rally in July 2018, Trump escalated the challenge, saying that if Warren agreed to a debate and took a DNA test that showed you're an Indian, he would donate $1 million to a charity of her choice.
I will give you $1 million to your favorite charity, paid for by Trump, if you take the test and it shows you're an Indian.
Facing mounting pressure, Warren agreed to take the DNA test, hoping to validate her claims. The results showed she had a distant Native ancestor estimated to be 6 to 10 generations back, according to geneticist Carlos D. Bustamante. However, this level of ancestry did not meet the requirements for tribal membership. That amplifies something like 1/64th to 1/1024th of her ancestry, depending upon where the ancestor falls. But that ancestor is either Mexican, Peruvian, or Colombian. It cannot identify a native tribe and can't replace records. The Cherokee Nation criticized her for using DNA as proof of tribal identity, stating that tribal membership is not determined by DNA, and in fact the DNA didn't prove anything at all.
It's irrelevant to what it means to be a Native American in this country. That's based on a legal definition. Certainly every tribe has that in common, that we have some legal basis for our citizenship that we determine consistent with federal treaties.
Over 200 Native American leaders later asked Warren to fully retract her claims of Native American status. She eventually apologized for contributing to misunderstandings around her identity, tribal sovereignty, and representation, citing the confusion and misuse it caused regarding tribal sovereignty. She got caught. The Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma, the United Kiowa Band in Oklahoma, and the Eastern Band of the Cherokee Indians in North Carolina all made it quite clear. You need a direct ancestor on the 1924 Baker Roll or the 1949 UKB Base Roll or Dawes Roll from 1898 to 1906 and 1914. One must also have greater than 1/16 Eastern Cherokee, and DNA is not an enrollment proof. Warren did not qualify on any scale. You must descend from someone on the roll. DNA is not accepted for calculation. According to the documentation from the Dawes plus quantum requirement or UKB materials, it describes that one must be at least 1/4 Kiowa Cherokee. As a result, all early press items relying on a second-hand reference were later corrected. The Cherokee Nation and other Native voices said using DNA to assert identity was inappropriate and wrong because tribes, not tests, determine citizenship. Warren later apologized privately to the nation in February 2019 and publicly at a Native forum in August of 2019. But Warren's corruption goes even further. Trump turned the Oval Office upside down by criticizing Warren's creation of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB, which he described as a tool she used to destroy successful people, including entrepreneurs like Elon Musk. Warren is an open anti-capitalist, but she does not mind living on insider trading, dark money, and taxpayer dollars. Warren's hypocrisy was exposed during the Senate confirmation hearing of Robert Kennedy Jr. His vocal opposition to pharmaceutical companies promoting an array of vaccines and other products to the American public, as well as enforcing federal compliance and mandates, drew the ire of several Democrats, including Warren. That was because Warren and other Democrats in opposition in both houses, using their voting power to create mandatory vaccinations, did so while they raked in the profits from both their investments in those companies as well as generous campaign contributions from lobbyists. Warren herself voiced apprehensions that Kennedy's endeavors might drive vaccine manufacturers into bankruptcy. If that happened, that would derail her donor base for sure.
He may have the opportunity to bankrupt the vaccine manufacturers.
Warren had an outburst during the hearing when Kennedy revealed her attempt to persuade him not to pursue legal action against pharmaceutical companies after departing from the Department of Health and Human Services. Although Warren publicly denied the accusation, a clip later surfaced, shared by the Daily Caller News Foundation on X, in which she acknowledged it. Warren stated,
"That is the website. I don't take contributions from big pharma executives. I don't take any corporate PAC money."
She lied. However, the community notes feature on X remains undefeated. As a rebuttal to her claim, it was appended to the video. The community note linked to Open Secrets revealed that Warren has indeed received big pharma money over the years. According to Open Secrets, between 2019 and 2020, Warren accepted $822,573 from employees or PACs affiliated with pharmaceutical and health product companies, albeit not from the companies themselves. That's how they filter the donations. But since 2020, Warren took $5.2 million from Big Pharma using backdoor donors and her political action committee to escape and evade any semblance of a direct contribution, which would have been illegal. This is called dark money. Warren doubled down on her claims that she doesn't take contributions from Big Pharma executives. Warren made these claims again after leaving RFK Jr.'s United States Senate Finance Committee vote. So why did Warren and other Democrats attack RFK Jr. when he wanted to clean up the pharmaceutical industry? Well, it's simple. They were on the take, and they had to protect their biggest donors. Federal Election Commission records show clearly that Warren also accepted donations from the Sackler family, who have been sued for their major role in the opioid crisis. Sadly, Senate Democrats have resorted to distorting the truth in an attempt to obstruct President Trump's nominees, especially Robert Kennedy Jr. During that particular hearing, it got very interesting. When Socialist Senator Bernie Sanders had a notable exchange with Kennedy during the second day of his confirmation hearing, where Kennedy revealed that Sanders, who like Warren had himself accepted Big Pharma money, over $1.4 million. Trump's administration, with Elon Musk's Department of Governmental Efficiency, DOGE, moved to shut down the CFPB, a decision that enraged Warren, who claimed it would allow big corporations to harm everyday Americans. Well, where was she during the COVID-19 mandate crisis? But what it did do was stop the funneling of dark money into Democrat coffers from that sector. The Hill reported, quote, Warren has condemned many efforts directed by President Trump, including attempts to shut down the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, an agency she helped create. The Massachusetts senator said she is depending on judges to prevent the proposed cuts and enforce the rule of law during a time when the boundaries of executive power are being tested. Trump said regarding the CFPB,
that was set up to destroy people. She used that as her little personal agency to go around and destroy people. And she's a fake. Just like she said she was an Indian, and she wasn't an Indian. You have more Indian blood in you than she has. She went to college based on the fact that she was an Indian. She got jobs based on the fact that she was an Indian. She's a fake.
In the third quarter of 2019, during the 2020 presidential elections, Warren's campaign raised $24.6 million from all sources, many of whom were lobbyists, just less than the $25.3 million Sanders' campaign raised, and well ahead of Joe Biden, the frontrunner in the polls, who only raised $15.2 million. As of 2019, Forbes estimated Warren's net worth at $12 million. Much of that wealth did not come from a typical civil servant's salary, though she has plenty of company among her career politician friends who entered office with modest means and left wealthy. On another note, Warren voted guilty in the Senate during the second impeachment of Donald Trump, claiming he was responsible for the January 6, 2021 disturbance. Warren conveniently forgot to mention that her Democrat colleagues organized the entire event, even escorting people into the Capitol, and the decision of D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser to not accept National Guard assets offered by Trump. She also failed to mention that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats also joined the Capitol Police Chief in the conspiracy, allowing the fake paid Trump protesters to create an image of mayhem. Warren also revealed what critics describe as intellectual inconsistency. She strongly supported sending nearly unlimited U.S. taxpayer funds to Ukraine in its war with Russia. Yet, despite voicing public support for Israel, she opposed a $14 billion military aid package following major attacks by terrorist groups. Warren voted against funding the border wall in the first Trump administration and then supported defunding police around the nation. She supported both Antifa and BLM and opening the border to millions of criminals regardless of the danger to the country. See our videos on BLM and Antifa. In 2024, Warren joined other Democrats in the Senate who opposed the $118 billion border deal, securing the border using DNA to match children with actual parents, not giving the kids to suspected traffickers and deporting illegals. During an online call with Katie Couric, Senator Elizabeth Warren condemned the Trump administration's deportations without granting the deported their due process rights. She failed to mention her party allowed them into the country in violation of federal immigration law. Warren publicly stated regarding illegals, "Bring them all back," because she wants them to be counted in polls for congressional seat appropriations. She also wants them to vote Democrat, legally or not. When Elizabeth Warren was asked about Molly Tibbetts being murdered by an illegal immigrant criminal, her reply was shockingly, "I know this is hard for the family, but they have to remember that we need to focus on real problems like illegal immigrants not being able to see their kids." These Democrats put the nation's migration crisis and American security on the back burner, but supported a bill that would provide $95 billion in taxpayer-funded military aid, mostly to Ukraine, and a little going to Israel and Taiwan. Democrats wanted an open border without any effort to protect children and American citizens, and Warren was a ringleader. However, despite her blatant fraud and hypocrisy, Warren has publicly fought for veterans and pushed the Veterans Administration to have greater accountability and provide better care. The only problem is she has never submitted any legislation to expand any real funding of the VA. She never pushed for accountability for VA failures under Obama or Biden, and she opposed Donald Trump's expanded VA care plan, increasing health care access. In essence, Elizabeth Warren is an empty vessel who thrives on public tax dollars and corporate donations, and has benefited from a life of fraud, insider trading, lies, and hypocrisy.
Thank you for watching this episode of Forgotten History. If you liked what you saw, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to assist with the ever-increasing cost of production, please consider becoming a channel member and joining our Patreon page. Please check out our merchandise store. And thanks for watching.